Hello everyone, and welcome back for part 3 in our 5-part series on how to systemize and professionalize your property business. We've talked about why you should systemize, we've talked about what you can systemize, and today I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how you can systemize. Now again, as I said in the first video, you can create a process for pretty much anything, from brushing your teeth to doing research on, on your next holiday, to any and almost all aspects of your business. Basically, the way you should think about it is anything that requires more than sort of 2 steps in order to get done effectively could be distilled and should be distilled into a process and some sort of a systemized, systematic way of getting it done. So how do you do this? Well, first of all, I've talked a lot about, again, sort of as you are running your business now, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? Basically, what you want to do is just do a brain dump and create the checklists, create the step-by-step process for how you do everything that you do. It's really all about, again, taking what is intuitive and what you do instinctively and naturally and have just sort of figured out how to get it done and putting it down on paper. So you can create a checklist, you can create a flow chart, you can create a decision tree. If this happens, then do that. If this happens, do that, and sort of work your way down. It's, again, basically just downloading your brain and explaining to somebody else how they can do what you already do. And the form doesn't matter. The main thing that you need to make sure you're doing when you're systemizing or creating a process is that you're thinking through all of the details, any of the questions that might come up. Again, since you're taking what's already in your own head and trying to explain it to somebody else, it might be a little bit tricky to anticipate what questions they might have, or, what might come naturally to you doesn't come naturally to somebody else. So the criteria I use is whenever I'm creating a process document or, a checklist or some sort of instructions for someone else, I do it so that the document or the video or whatever, the instructions are done to such detail that a smart 10-year-old would be able to effectively execute that instruction. Now, it seems like maybe a funny standard, but, a lot of things really do just need to be broken down into as simply explained and clear as possible. And a smart 10-year-old, can read, can do basic math, is able to probably these days do a lot more sort of fancy stuff technologically than any of us could. So if that sort of, you use that as your standard, it'll help you anticipate some of the questions that might come up when you look to delegate these things. Now, it might seem like, oh, well, it's a bit condescending and you're stating the obvious, but it's only obvious to you because you've been doing it for however long you've been doing it, and you've been doing it your way. So it's obvious to you to get things done your way, but other people have different ways of doing things. So again, if you use the smart 10-year-old as a benchmark as to how much detail you should or shouldn't give, it will force you to think about, oh, well, actually, yeah, this is my personal preference, as opposed to, oh, it's just obvious everyone does it that way. And then you break it down into a step-by-step process. We have, for example, a 16-page document that I created to explain how we would like our properties dressed. Now, it's not 16 pages for one property, it's 16 pages for multiple properties, and not 16 pages each. But, it's very specific. It says, these are the items that you need to put. This is how you make the bed look. I've provided pictures and, to show what the finished product should look like. This is the scent, of the air freshener that we want to use in the bathrooms, and all of that kind of stuff. Again, you just do it intuitively, especially when you're self-managing. And you do it to your taste and your standards, that's going to be different to what other people's taste and standards are. So if you have a checklist and a document that lists it all in detail, then there's zero room for error, and there's zero room for you to be disappointed when you do eventually decide to delegate. So really the how should be it's straightforward. It's not easy because it can take time to create those documents and those processes. And as I said, that document that discusses how we would like our properties staged and dressed, it took me the better part of a few days to put that together. Because again, I had to make explicit everything that I was just doing intuitively. And it's things like, how to place the candles and how many to put on, the bedside table versus how many, how to roll the towels in the bathroom and how to, tuck in the bed sheets when you're dressing a bed and all of that kind of stuff. And so, that level of detail takes a lot of time to put together, but now it's done and you only have to do it once. So spend that bit of time, again, downloading your brain, using that smart 10-year-old as a benchmark, and you'll find that it becomes a lot easier for you to then be able to explain what you want and how you want it done, and then it leaves no room for error. The other thing that's really helpful is that, for processes you already do, you're going to be the one who has to create the document and the instructions and the step-by-step. But if there are new things and you already have a member of team on your team, or you've hired somebody new and you're asking them to do things that you've never done before, have them create the documents, have them create the processes, and just say, look, when you are doing X, please write down what steps you are doing and how you're doing it, so that, again, it becomes part of your business IP. And then, again, it can be, delegated to somebody else. If that person is ever sick and you need to pick up the slack or do whatever they were doing, then you know how they do it and you can do it effectively. So either you create the document for things that you've already done yourself, and or for the things that you want done in a very specific way, or if it's something new that somebody else is doing for you, have them create the step-by-step document and the instructions and the process, so that, it's capturing that knowledge and it's capturing that expertise once, and then you never have to capture it again. And that is the beauty of creating a system or a process. It's literally, you do it once, and yes, sometimes you'll have to update things, but you're not creating it wholesale every single time. Whereas if you don't have those documents in place, anytime you do decide to hire somebody new or to delegate something to somebody else, you have to go through that whole process of explaining and breaking it down and doing all of that stuff again and again and again. It's a huge waste of your time, and it only adds to the frustration. So if you are going to delegate, or already are delegating, capture all of that, the hows and the whats and the what tools do you need, what information do you need, where do you find it, oh, it's in Dropbox, oh, it's in Google Drive, or, use this spreadsheet, or whatever it is. When you delegate, it's not just a question of this is what I want and how I want you to do it, but here are the tools you need to do it. Here's the software you use, here's the app we use, here's the, photos we use, whatever it is. Make sure that the person, whoever is going to do this, and again, it can still be you for right now, but make sure you're providing the tools necessary to execute on that process effectively. So that way, again, you won't be disappointed. It sets the other person up for success. And then again, you create it once, you never have to create it again. The only caveat being, sort of when you need to update things or you change the way you do things. So now you know why you should systemize. Now you know what you can systemize, and now you know how you can systemize. So the next two videos will just be giving you some very, very practical tips about things that we've used and off-the-shelf products that we've used, or documents that we've created for ourselves that have been really, really helpful in delegating things to other people, or keeping us accountable to make sure things are getting done in the right way and in the right time, and really just helping our business grow, but also to run more efficiently, definitely more profitably, but also, as important, grow with less of our time and less stress. And I think for a lot of us, that is the key. So please join me again tomorrow for part 4, and we'll be giving you some very practical tips and things and ideas for how you can start implementing some of the ideas that we've talked about in these first 3 videos. And I will look forward to speaking to you then. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.